Hello, we are Rebuild for Change. Joining us today, we have the co-founder, Tahira Raycliffe, and special guests, Caitlin Maledo and Cherezann Booysen. I am the presenter, Aaron Lewis. Rebuild for Change seeks to uplift and empower communities through focusing on holistic development from early childhood to youth. We want to tell the stories that shaped us and give a voice to the community.
So guys, could you just introduce yourself? Tell us what do you do on a daily basis, and just a little short 30 seconds. Cherezann.
You're going to start.
No.
Okay, Caitlin, you go.
So, I'm Caitlin Maledo. I am a news journalist and working for Smile FM. So I do a lot of like the writing for the station. All the news that you hear on the hour is what comes from my hands. And then every now and again I am on air as well. So I do the reading as well. But yeah, that's kind of daily basis, interacting with people all the time, speaking to communities about the things that affect them, and letting the broader community, broader Cape Town as well know about those things. So that's my day today.
And Cherezann?
Oh, hi. I'm Cherezann. I'm very nervous.
It's okay.
That's fine.
You know why? I am a stay-at-home wife and mother. Yeah, that's me. I kind of just focus on the development of my family. So that's my role. Yeah.
And don't discredit yourself. You
Yes.
change color quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying, like, that's my, like, I'm just introducing myself. I'll go into detail. I mean, we are talking about, like, education and educare, which is essentially what I do. But, yeah, that's my, and it's not just, it's a big job.
No, that is true. And also, many people know that you recently completed your Bachelor's of Arts.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. I am educated, so I'm an educated stay-at-home wife and mother. But yeah, that's my choice. My choice is to be at home with my family. I feel like I thrive much better there than I did in the classroom. So, but I do also have my qualifications in my Bachelor of Arts, and I have my qualifications in early childhood development. So yeah.
I have also, that was not, I don't know how you did it. That's impressive because being a stay-at-home mother and wife, it's a job in its own. And I feel like a lot of people, young people, can celebrate that because you're not alone. There's a lot of people that I've met through my mother's previous work that are young mothers that just, you know, that's an amazing thing. And that brings us to a topic today. We want to discuss your journeys as individual women because for people that don't know, we all went to the same university in the same private student organization. And we spoke about, imagine being on a podcast a very long time ago.
Too many times.
So it's actually happening today, which is, shout out to Jaden, which is the other fourth wheel in our circle that time. But we want to ask you questions based on your experiences since then and how you've grown and your journey, so that when people listening to us, to this episode, especially young South Africans, what they can connect with that and also be inspired by that.
So, Caitlin, have you always wanted to be a part of radio and going into journalism? Was that something when you were like a little girl, you were like, I want to do that? Or was it something that came later in life?
In part, it was something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be Oprah. Like, we always sat down every afternoon coming home from school, sitting and watching Oprah with my granny. So it was always something that I, like, aspired to. But, you know, then you get, like, the outside influences, your parents, like, that's not the kind of work that's going to pay. Like, we want you to, you know, live a stable life. And being on TV or radio is,
not
they
practical.
didn't deem that as, practical or stable. So, I kind of just drifted through life like, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be I don't know what else, but there were so many other things that, like, bobbing in and out of. And then I started varsity, still very little idea of where I was headed. then it kind of also became like, I'm going to be a psychologist. Like, that's something. I'm going to be a psychologist. I'm so passionate about it. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know.
Passionate. That was coming into from
That's
high
what my
school
degree
into-
is, psychology. Didn't even use it.
From high school into university, I was like, I'm going to be a psychologist. I communicate with people so well. Like, this is going to be so great. And then I done this, what is it? What's that word? The degree that we done, a general bachelor of arts degree, right? And then I had my subjects were political science, psychology, and philosophy, and then Chinese as well. And Chinese was like, that was also, I'm so passionate. Yes, Chinese. I'm going to teach Chinese.
Are you fluent in Chinese?
Not fluent. Ni hao ma
Is that all? What do you
far as I
remember?
go now. Ni hao ma, ni tamayang. That's where we end.
Mandarin, I'm assuming.
Mandarin, yes. Never mind. I was going to say who I am, but I can't remember that now. So yeah, that was another thing I was passionate about in psychology and political science. Yeah. And then it came to the end of the degree. And I was like, none of these things are in my mind where I want to be at. I'm not headed in any of these directions. It was super fun while I was doing it. Super fun is a stretch, but it was fun while I was doing it. But this is not realistically where I'm going to end up. And I would need to study further. And I don't want to study any further. I wanted to start being practical about the things that I wanted to do. And then I just applied for postgrads. Just anything that I qualified for. I'm going to apply for it. And then I applied for journalism. And we had to write it. I didn't need to have any specific mark for any subject.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was.
I did not know
this. You just
this.
had to write a test. And from that test, and then you do an interview. It was an interview that we done as well after that. And then they select you based on
Is this at Stellenbosch
University, yeah. So yeah, that was kind of like okay, I'm going to apply for that. That's more or less people know I like talking. I'm always chatting, yap. So let me see where this is going to go. So I applied for that and done the test and went for the interview and got in. And it was super fun and fresh. And I enjoyed every aspect of it because it tapped into every part of my mind. I feel like there's so many, as an individual, there's so many things growing up that you want to do. You want to be a chef and a lawyer and a fashion designer, and there's so many things that you want to do, and distilling that into one direction can be very difficult. So when getting into journalism, we done radio, we done print, we done, and we got to interact with so many different people from different walks of life that I felt like this, where I ended up, was definitely where I was meant to be, because I could still go into and do all the things that I was passionate about. If I was passionate about food, I could go into that sphere. If I was passionate about, I am radio, I could go into that sphere.
Yeah, it was sort of a gateway to so many other
things. It was such an open, not narrow necessarily, but while it was distilled, it was such an open, there was a lot on the horizon that I could get into. And so, and
that's where you ended up
in journalism, and I've been enjoying it so far. I was at Heart FM I done my internship there. Started at Bush Radio. I actually
started at MFM.
I was going to say you started at university.
You skipped that whole section
all parts of my life.
But I can imagine it can seem like a blur looking back now. If you had to write it all down, you did quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Cherezann, your story is very different to that, but it's still very credible. So could you share parts of your life from university and how you ended up here today? Was it always something you imagined? If it's 18-year-old Cherezann, would she be seeing yourself?
I'm laughing because it was definitely not something that I planned for. We all started at university, like you said, and I think a general consensus within the group was that we all didn't know what was happening afterwards. We had no concept of the future.
I think we all did our degrees.
Me too.
We did our degrees knowing this was the only thing. Well, we just did it.
Exactly. Yeah, it was more of a just, we need to get this done. And I think a lot of that also had the influence from our parents. We have very traditional parents, so they expected very traditional routes in life. So from school you go to university, from university you get a job, and then from there you branch off with your life. So I think our idea of life was very narrowed, and we didn't think that, like Aileen said, we could go into those other spheres in our life. So for many people that don't know, my mother is a stay-at-home mom and wife. There was no part of me that ever wanted to do that. I 100% resisted. I think a lot of the comments I even made early was like, I would never want to be a stay-at-home mother. And I also didn't want kids. I was very adamant, like, I don't want kids. And then I also had very contradictory, I also had a statement to that was, if I can't stay at home with him. So I think I was just very confused. And then in my first year, I met my husband. And I think the way our relationship went, it really opened up that branch, and I looked at the way my mother lived her life very differently, because I saw her cater to my dad, and while he worked and she was home, and I was like, this seems like a lot, and it seems unnecessary. I mean, he's a grown man, he can do things for himself. But now, when I met my husband and I started doing those things, I was like, I really find joy and peace in this. I don't think there's anything else that I'd want to do. It even solidified furthermore when I had my first child, who was recent. It was quite recent, so she's going to be 2. Going through every step of her life, every phase of her life, I was like, I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Or missing out on that.
Exactly, yeah. And before her, I did work. Like I said, I am qualified in early childhood development, so I did work in a few daycares and in preschools, and I enjoyed it. I must say there is something that I do have this sense of care for kids, but it's definitely something else when it's your child. And I keep telling myself I would go back to work, but I can't imagine doing for somebody else's child what I could do for my own child individually, because then I would have to pass them on to someone else. I did work, and also I will always stand by, I would prefer to get up at 7 and never knock off than get up at 6 to 6 and work like full time, because early childhood development, you work really hard and you work non-stop.
Yeah, it's like an exhausting job.
And sometimes you don't get to see those benefits, because the child will obviously graduate
and
each
move
year.
away,
the parents get to see certain things, and you don't get to get that same. It's not the same.
You don't
as
see
when
the
you
result.
You see your child, and they tell you like their numbers, and you're like, oh, and this child tells you the numbers. Like, I'm so happy I could help, but this is the furthest I can take you, and someone else has to take over. So there's all those aspects. So that's the route my life followed, and I must say it's very different to what I expected. It's very different to everyone else around me. But I enjoy it. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
And I'm so happy that you're really so proud of that, because I do know a lot of young women, modern age, it's like traveling abroad. Also, I've met a lot of other people our age from different countries, and nobody ever says, that's what I want to do. And the older I get, being married now, like, you kind of yearn that. Maybe it's like an instinct thing as a woman, you know, but like just connecting with your, like, a child, or in any way that it may be. So I thought of a question, and I don't know, you may answer it. Like, what do you think about, like, sending your child off to school? Would you homeschool?
So we've already made that decision. I think when you, especially because I know the system and the education process, I could make that decision earlier. We've decided to homeschool for a few reasons, but the main couple of reasons is, one, schooling is very expensive, and what I would earn as a daycare teacher, or even as a preschool teacher, grade R, etc., would be much less than what it's going to cost me to put her in school.
Yes.
So we're going to be at a deficit.
So you might
either
as
way.
well just
So
raise
I might
and
as well
educate your own child.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the reasons. And also, I don't mean to sound, there is great teachers and there are great facilities and there are people that put their heart and their soul every day when they walk into that room for your child. But it's a gamble. You don't know if you're going to get that person. You don't know if your child is going to get that teacher that is going to give everything to them and is passionate about their job and is there for more than just the salary. Because it's children. It's important that you add a level of care to their education, regardless of if they are 3 or if they are 13. They all still need that guidance and that care and that humanity into the education. So it's just too much of a risk that we can afford to leave out of our decisions. So we're definitely going to homeschool. That's the plan. That's the plan with most of the kids. I currently do that now. It's just on a small scale. We give her some lessons and some educational activities.
And
obviously,
I could imagine the time that you have with her also to do other things that she can learn when, maybe you're going somewhere. Because learning doesn't also happen within a classroom. It's like the environment and everything else outside that too. So
no, definitely, I can agree. So yeah, that is the decision we want to take with her.
So also, Caitlin, earlier you mentioned just talking about how journalism can serve the community and radio can serve the community. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that and maybe even how you use that?
Yeah. So one thing about radio which makes it unique and still sought after is that a lot of South Africa is still very impoverished. So a lot of people don't have access to TVs, don't have access to YouTube to watch podcasts and that kind of thing. But the one stagnant, or not stagnant, but the one consistent thing is that radio has been there and is still there. And it's still reaching out to communities, and people listen to it in their cars, at home, still have those old stereo radio machine things. So getting, and then using that to bring what is, I'm struggling to find my words here, but help other people. So because okay, we're going to paint the picture now. So radio is here and people have it in their cars. People that have cars have radios. Then there's people in the community that don't have cars, that don't have TV, whatever the case may be, but they have their little stereo. They are talking about there's flooding in our community. We don't have funds. We don't have this. We don't have that. And these are the things that we need. What we do, we are that we bridge that gap. So the people that are able to assist, the people that can help, the people that aren't aware of what's happening in that community. Gift of the Givers, for example, they may not be aware, but one of the members of that organization may be in the car and hearing what's happening, and they are able to send that message, guys, we need to go out to wherever, whatever, where we're needed. So that is the way I feel like radio is still, excuse me, bangle, is able to work for the community, and then the community work for it as well, because there's so many community radio stations that, like the bush radios and those kind of things, where people can come to and they can get internships and they can, learn how to serve the community through that. So, yeah. That's
do you think there's any gaps like that could be worked on, or generally within the radio television industry in South Africa specifically, maybe something that happens abroad that you know of that could be better help,
Yeah. I think one thing that is lacking in terms of the international aspect, I think we need more buy-in from bigger organizations, like with Bush Radio. I'm keep hopping on this example, but they have a lot of international stakeholders that like if you work for them, you can do an internship abroad for 6 months. You can go to the US and you can, those kinds of interactions, and then build on children coming from, have only seen the community around them.
Yeah.
They now have that opportunity going to a community radio station and then being able to branch out. So I think a lot more of that is needed, and we need a lot more youth as well. Just like,
So a lot of encouragement, really.
yeah, we need a lot more youth still pushing radio, because that is still where we need to grow. You know, I get like being on TV is fun and it's exciting and all of that, but that's not necessarily where we need to be for our country. We are still growing, we're still developing. We're only, like 30 years of democracy. There's still a lot of work that we need to do. So let us build up where our grassroots, like we started in radio and this is how things happen. So let us, keep pushing that and building on that, as opposed to hopping on what is relevant worldwide. We need to work on what serves us now.
Because I think there are a lot of talented people, and and also an aspect that I noticed leaving university. I taught abroad. We taught abroad for 5 years. Not 5 years.
2 or 3.
3
well,
years.
3 if you add it
Feels
together.
like 5. But you come back and you try to change your career path. It's very difficult. You try because before finding this organization, Rebuild for Change, which was like a passion from like a young age, like to find a job, even with a degree, it's difficult.
Everywhere, even in the U.S. too,
and
it's really bad.
The experience you have and you want to change, and you want to, I'm actually very passionate about event planning or administration. I already spent 3-4 years studying. Am I going to spend another couple of years to try to get into another field? And then you have a lot of organizations, companies, places where you look at the demographics of people that are in roles that are representative of those places, and it's a lot of middle-aged older people, and then where's the space for young people when they're supposed to get experience to fit in those places, and also just finding spaces, like even doing and not advocating because it's within your own household, but you're comfortable with at-home teaching. Like nobody ever talks about that and says that there are benefits to that too. For families that are able to do that, and also like radio. How long do you work before you get to a place where you were like waiting till you're 40 years old? Because for the people listening, the people sitting around this table, like both of you also signed on as directors to our organization to help with your expertise and your input and your opinion to help us grow. And Rebuild for Change, I specifically wanted to be led by young people in the nonprofit sector, because if we're helping the people and we're saying we serve youth, I'd assume yes, because nobody understands those problems more than people themselves. Exactly.
Not to discredit our elderly, because we definitely can learn from them. We're not knocking that, and we're not trying to diminish their role or their capabilities that they bring.
For sure.
But they're not going to be around long.
And I guess in modern times,
ever-changing
in modern times, that the challenges that some of the elderly people would have faced just aren't here anymore.
Exactly.
And the youth has a different set of challenges now.
Exactly.
And it's hard for somebody that was a youth maybe 40 years ago to relate to today's youth.
That's true.
An example of that is, I look at my mother. She had kids, she had us. And then I and my kid, and the gap or the overlap that she seems to forget that happened, because it's not this. She's even like, well, I don't remember doing that. But I'm like, well, you had to have done that because you had that baby. So it's not even in a sense that they don't get it. They could have just forgotten it, or they could just be too far removed from the current situation to be able to offer that insight that you need in the moment. So I fully agree that youth need to be able to take space and find our place
as well, because there's a lot of talk of
and not actually doing
the youth
it.
is the future, and the youth need to do this, but then it's the same older people that have
Leading.
been
It's
leading.
a big disconnect, really.
Yeah, it's a major disconnect. There's no youth doing anything. The youth are in the background.
Yeah.
When the youth need to be leading the charge.
It's done on a very micro
Surface
level.
level.
Yeah.
It's so small that nobody knows that this young person is doing it in this
Exactly.
area
Yeah.
because this person has like 10 followers on the Instagram page. So who is going to see that?
That's another
you know,
thing.
and like even for us doing funding and stuff like that, it's difficult to grow from something small because they want to see you do it. But it's like, I'm
Yeah.
only doing it for very small people. I don't have a website. I can't afford to put
Yeah.
one up. I don't have a laptop.
Yeah.
How do I start with this and actually gain traction from people looking? Because it's kind of, you can't put the horse in front of the cart, but like, how do you get to put...
Yeah. How do you get the horse or the cart you
Yes,
need to?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, so that's like, I think that will be a big, a big plus for our organization is to let that
Be the
lead
youth.
thing,
Yeah.
be the youth.
Because the way I see it, the biggest way to motivate a youth would be another youth motivating them. Because an
Yeah.
older person can tell them, you should do this, you need to do this, or you
And
should
it
try to
comes
do
from that
this.
point, you
but
should.
yeah,
Yes.
when it's somebody your own age, you're like, well, this person achieved something, and maybe they can actually help me, and I can look towards them as a role model too.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about our founder, Fadila Reiko. She's like, I'm here for the knowledge, for the support, but I take a step back for things that I cannot relate to and let you lead towards like so that because I'm not going to be here, in 30 years, who knows where I'll be. So
She's still young in spirit.
young in spirit. So just to like wrap up, what are your future goals? What do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself 5 years, or what do you want for yourself in the future? Where do you hope to be? Just quick, short. Caitlin, you start. Cherezann looks like she needs time to think.
So you know what? I've learned to be the type of person to just take it as it comes. So for me in my next 5 years is to be happy with the decisions that I make in the
Yes.
now. Because like I said, ever-changing world, you have to adapt. So as long as I'm happy and Rebuild for Change is doing the most, which it will be in the next 5 years, that's just my plan, just to be happy and to be doing for the community what we've set out to do.
That's amazing. Cherezann?
So in the next couple of years, I think I want to be a bit more active. I think I'm very passive, so I want to be a bit more active, which I think the foundation would really help me get out there and be able to get in. And I do want to give back to kids besides my own. So I will have more kids, and I do want to give back to the other kids, maybe even share the resources that I use at home for other parents,
mothers
and they
too.
can take
Yes.
that and they can use that in their homes and their daily, even if they're not at home with the child. So that would be something that I think we can look into as the foundation as well. Yeah.
And you, Arian?
Tell
Tell us.
Well, obviously, we really would love to see the organization grow.
Yeah.
We're starting small, here in Cape Town, Western Cape, and we would like to eventually go to more provinces in South Africa, and hopefully, maybe internationally someday.
Come on.
Start slow and just work your way up.
Yeah.
And also my hope is to have a space, like a building or space for in an area for us to do journalism, art, music, dance, and have a space like that for young people, children, even older people to go and find more ways than just the
center
traditional
almost.
high school, university, and or like that, because there's the whole world out there that possibilities.
And I mean, if anyone can do it, I feel like it's us.
True.
Yes, for sure.
I mean,
100%.
look at where we all started too.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I don't know you two very well, but still, just from the stories that I've heard, like we all started somewhere, but just how we all ended up here is kind of crazy.
It is crazy. All different walks of life. And again, what Rebuild for Change does, all different walks of life and trying to get you on the path that you want to be on.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you so much for both of you coming out today. I mean, it was a
means a
wonderful
lot, yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
and then we do talk so much about the youth here on the podcast,
Yeah.
and having people our age coming on too is
Yeah.
just so great. Because then whoever you never know who might be watching, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, they're our age, and it's just so
Yeah.
motivating.
Yeah, it
Inspires
is.
a lot of people.
Please like and subscribe if you'd like to follow along on our journey and see our impact. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching Rebuild for Change. If you'd like to learn more about our impact, go to www.rebuildforchange.org. Once again, thanks for joining us today. Let's work together and make a change.
Don't forget to hit that like button.
Smash that like button.
Smash it.
Smash it.